Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is the Black Truth Seeker channel, and I will be your host tonight. I have a message that I want to put out here. I'm going to try to make it real brief and clear, but it's definitely going to be packed with information and facts. I have a 5-part series that I want to put out. This is part 1 of a 5-part series, and the name of this series is called Breaking the Shackles, or I should say Breaking the Mental Shackles of Slavery. Breaking the Mental Shackles of Slavery. I have to put that word mental in front of shackles because this is where we at today. Some of us is still caught up in our cognitive dissonance, and we don't realize that we are still being enslaved mentally. And I always said that mental slavery is far worse than physical slavery, because physical slavery, if you're fortunate enough to live through it, those physical injuries can heal. But when you've been brainwashed or indoctrinated with a doctrine or some type of dogma, some type of message that was put together to control you for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, that's hard to break. You're not going to heal from that no time soon, because it may take you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, especially Black people collectively, to break those shackles. But the first thing we got to do, we have to be educated. We have to be educated. Somebody somewhere who has done their homework, they have to bring that message to the people to help so that the people can heal. We can't heal collectively right now because it's too much individualism going on. It's too much I got mine and you get yours going on. It's too much bickering and fighting amongst each other that's going on. And I know my son brought that to my attention the other day. And he said, "Dad, it's going to be hard for Black people to get reparations because they don't even agree on anything. You know, they always fussing and fighting. They can't even sit at the same table." And I agree with my son 100%. Shout out to Jeffrey Jr. I agree with him 100%. We will never get anywhere unless we put our boxing gloves down, or if you're going to pick them up and start boxing, you box against the people that got you in these shackles. And I'm getting ready to show you exactly how to break these shackles. As I stated previously, the first thing we have to do, we have to understand that we have an existing problem at hand. We have to understand that we have a mental issue. We have a psychological issue. And we have to admit to that. We can't get caught up in this, what I call cognitive dissonance. I mean, we can't get caught up in that. You know, we have to be willing not just to listen, but to do our research. Everything that I'm about to tell you tonight, you should be researching this stuff. I mean, I'm putting in the work right now. All you got to do is confirm what I'm saying. You know, because my job is not to convert people. My job is not to proselytize people. But my job is to bring a message, a profound message based on facts and not fiction, based on true facts that you can actually look up and search out and research yourself, and you can find out that these facts are real. Now, right now, we're in the midst of Black History Month. And there are a lot of disturbing things that's happening during this month. And one of the things that I noticed is that I'm on social media a lot. Basically, I'm on the internet a lot. And we have a lot of master teachers. We have both men and women, you know, that's well learned, that have the truth, that know the truth. They've been studying this stuff for decades, some of them for decades. And what disturbs me is that even some of our highly esteemed master teachers are getting caught up in this thing. Uh, 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 um, I know what I'm talking about, but you don't. And the next thing you know, they both having word fights. They fighting with words, and it doesn't make us look good at all. And see, that's what we have to stop. This is why I say, collectively, Black people have a psychological issue that they have to deal with. And if we don't deal with this issue, it's curtains for us. Because we're already at the bottom of the economic pole. And, there's no way that we're going to pull ourselves up out of the rut unless we start coming together and start unifying our brains and unifying our thoughts. No, we're not going to agree up on everything, but we should be able to have a conversation. We shouldn't always have something negative to say about one another, because everybody can bring something positive to the table. Okay? So with that said, I'm going to talk about one of the household names that's being uttered virtually this whole month. And this month is just about over. But they talk about him a whole lot. And I just want to bring some truth to my people concerning this brother. And before I speak on him, I want to say, may his soul rest in peace. I still love my brother. But I still have to tell the truth. Okay? And I'm talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. During this prestigious month, year after year, decades after decades, when they talk about Martin Luther King on Black History Month, and I'm not even talking about the powers that be, because you can expect them to do what they do. They do what they do. That's not even our problem. Our problem is when you have Black folks talking about the same thing, the March on Washington, the 1963 March on Washington, and it's almost as if they can't even get past that. They may talk about a few of his speeches or whatnot, and they may have some things to say, like I've seen the mountaintop speech and, stuff like that. But basically, it's like they talking about the same thing. And I ask myself, why is it that they doing this? And I come to find out that the reason why they're doing it is because we have a lot of governmental agents that work as ops that are told to say certain things about this guy. And there are certain things that you're not allowed to say. I don't know, some of the stuff I might speak on tonight, they may not even let this video out, because I want people to realize that you've been indoctrinated. I've been indoctrinated. But once we come to the conclusion of knowing that we have a mental problem, there's something that we can do about that. We can't just maintain the status quo. We can't just say, oh, well, there's only so much you can do. You can't, what can we do? You can't have that attitude. The attitude that you have to have, you have to, actually, you should be mad, You should be mad that you've been tricked. We've been tricked to thinking that this brother was a legitimate leader for us. He fought for civil rights, okay? I'll be the first to tell you that we didn't need civil rights. Civil rights was something that was created by the power structure. It wasn't us. That wasn't our idea. And I'm gonna give you some proof right now. There's a film that you can pull up on the internet right now, and it's called How to Sell to a Negro. And when you look at that film, by the time you get to the end of the film, your mouth gonna be wide open. This is something that was pulled out of the archives and it was put on the internet. It leaked out. And now that it's out there, a lot of black brothers and sisters, they jumping on that bandwagon. And they getting this information because, we've been lied to about the civil rights movement. We had Black Wall Streets all over America. It wasn't just Tulsa, Oklahoma. They talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma and Black Wall Street as if that was the only successful black community that was thriving, but we had them all over the country, and even though that they burnt out a lot of those towns, like Rosewood in Florida, they built highways, like they built highways through Black Bottom in Detroit, Michigan. They built highways through the Black Belt in Chicago. And, they did and they drowned some of these communities out with waters and dams and all types of stuff. This happened in Atlanta, Georgia. In Atlanta, I don't know if it was Georgia, but I know it was in parts of Georgia. And even behind all of that turmoil, we still got up and rebuilt. See, they don't tell you that Tulsa, Oklahoma and Black Wall Street was actually rebuilt after it was blown up by the government. It was actually rebuilt. And a lot of these towns that they talk about that was drowned underwater, black people still build. They never gave up. We never gave up. And this is the type of stuff that needs to be talked about. Yeah, symbolic things such as having a street named after a famous black person or the first black person this and the first black person that's all good. I'm all for that. But at some point, we got to look beyond that because you have to ask yourself, okay, now that we understand the power that we possess, where do we go from here? So when you look at this film called How to Sell to a Negro, and it was narrated by a European man, okay? This was a real network that was actually putting out truths about how black people got along back in the 50s, probably back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. The film came out in 1954. They said that our spending power back in 1954 was $12 billion annually. That was our spending power. They said that we were smarter, more smarter, and highly educated, more educated than our counterpart. They was talking about white people. They said that we had the smartest people coming out of universities in this country. We were at the top. We had theaters. We had grocery markets. We had cab companies. We had bus companies. Oh, yes. We had a bus company that had over 300 buses throughout the South. Dr. Claude Anderson talks about that. You need to get his book. He had a 5-series book called Powernomics. That's something good to get because it actually takes you to the next level on where we go from here. So the government, and I say the government, they came up with the idea since they know that our spending power was so immense. They like, man, we got to get a part of that. We got to get some of that. So what can we do? What can we do to get some of the buying power from these black folks? We can't keep turning our nose up at them every time they walk into our establishment. We can't be doing that. We can't hide the good stuff behind the counter and go sell them something shabby. We got to stop that. So Martin Luther King came on the scene right around the same time the SCLC was created. And it was actually created and it was actually financially backed by a white man who was Martin Luther King's best friend. They were actually best friends. And it is known that this white guy was a communist. His name is David Livingston. Look that up. His name is David Livingston. And when you look him up, you will find out that all of Martin Luther King's speeches was prepared by him. All of, I'll say the majority. Let me take that back. But that's just like saying it's all of his speeches. The majority of his speeches, including the March on Washington speech, all of those speeches was put together by somebody else. So you have to ask yourself, would a real legitimate black leader that is really down for his people allow somebody else or allow his enemy to dictate to him what to say and what not to say? So, knowing all of that, you can come to the conclusion that we didn't need civil rights. It was like he sent our people on a death mission. Now, did he do that on purpose? I really don't have the answer to. But I can tell you what I believe just by seeing what happened. This man wasn't no dummy. He was a doctor, for Christ's sakes. He was a doctor. He was highly educated, smart. So why would you send black people? Now, we just talked about this film that gave an account on how good we was doing when we had our own community. We were, when integration wasn't even a topic. So who created this integration crap? Who came up with the idea of us integrating with them? Who came up with that idea? It wasn't him. It wasn't him. Because see, this is the thing. If I'm a part of the power structure and I can get you to integrate with me, I already have the power over you. But if I can get you to integrate with me, that means I'm going to get your buying power and I'm going to still go upside your head whenever I want to. So why would you send your people in these sit-ins, these young people who are serious about, being treated equally and all of that? You ain't going to be treated equally. You better read the Constitution. See, and that's what that type of teachings wasn't being taught to these people that were protesting, mostly young black people back in the 50s and 60s. Half of them, even the ones that went to school, half of them did not read the Constitution. Because had they read the Constitution, they would have known that the first 10 amendments, after the first 10 amendments, you got what they call the 11th and 12th and 13th. Then you had a 13th, 14th, and 15th amendment. That was the Constitution for black people, those 3 amendments. So they're not going to treat you equal. You're not going to get that. And we found that out years later. Now that we look back in retrospect, you can calmly say, with all due respect, that man led our people to a burn. He even said it himself, that I've led my people into a burning building. And what did he mean by that? What he meant was that it really didn't matter. The talk, that's all it is talk. Them people do not want to be next to you. So why would you send them on a death mission, sit on these sit-ins, and even on the bus, you challenging the bus system and all of this. Okay? So did we need civil rights? Of course not. Did we need to integrate with them, which was the highlight of Martin Luther King's speeches? It was always talking about integration, little white boys and black boys and little white girls and black girls, holding hands and singing a Negro spiritual, we shall. No, that's fairy tale. That's fairy tale. We didn't need that. Integration messed us up. And now look where we at right now. Look where we at right now. We haven't rebound from what happened in the 60s. Just like crack did a number on the decades of the 80s and we never really bounced back. That's what the civil rights movement did to us back in the 60s. And when they did pass a civil rights policy, it was meant for everybody but us. It helped everybody but us. Affirmative action. All of that stuff was a joke. So did we need civil rights? Of course not. And like I said, I love my brother. He tried to make it right the last two years of his career before he got assassinated. He tried to make it right. And I don't know, he may have in his own heart, he may have, because what he did, he started talking about reparations. They was like, whoa, Mr. King, you can't be talking about that type of stuff. And see, now we gonna have to do something about that. You know, we want you to keep steering them black people in the wrong direction. But once you start talking about economics and why they deserve reparations and all of that, I believe that that's what got him killed. It ain't had nothing to do with the war in Vietnam and all that other stuff that a lot of black people like to talk about. What it was that to make black people competitive in this country was a no-no. When you do or say anything that makes us competitive, you know, that would bring us out of poverty and to make us competitive, that's a no-no. They always want to keep us at the bottom, and that's where we at right now today. You know, that's exactly where we at. Yeah, we have black millionaires. Yeah, we have a few black billionaires, but when you got a billionaire with a colonized mind, that's just like a poor person with a decolonized mind is more powerful than that billionaire with a colonized mind. Do you get me? See, they're not going to do anything to mess that money up. You know, so this is why, you know, you don't see black people that have millions and billions of dollars. You don't see them putting money out into the black community. You know, I know some like, well, you know, they them sports guys, you know, like LeBron James and Jalen Rose, you know, they gave hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, to the school system. Okay, to who? The school system was created by John D. Rockefeller in the early 1900s. The public school system. And the public school system right now is owned and operated by the government. Locally, regionally, and nationally. All three governments run the school system. So what you did, you just gave 100 millions of your hard-earned dollars, you just gave it right back to the dominant society. You thought you was helping us out. And this is why I say it's so important for us to be educated. I can't put emphasis on that enough. We have to educate ourselves. We have to teach ourselves, you know. And like I said, every little thing that I said tonight, just do your own research on it about the brother, Martin Luther King. I love my brother, but I got to tell the truth about him because right now, what happened back in the 60s affect us so much to where we can't move forward unless we understand what happened in the past. We can't move forward. We'll never be able to move forward because our brains is not conditioned that way. We have to recondition our brain. We have to watch stuff like that. You know, How to Sell to a Negro. And did we really need the civil rights movement? See, you have to look at stuff like that. And that's what Black History Month should be all about. Stories like that. Not who just invented this. I mean, the average black person that's walking the streets in America already know that black people collectively back on the plantations all the way up into the present day, we actually built this country. That's old. That's common knowledge. That's common knowledge. Even kids have heard that before. So it's like we have to be able to look past the symbolism, look past the inventions. All that stuff is good, but at some point, when are you going to look past that? When are you going to move forward? How is that affecting us? A street name is not getting us reparations. A street name is not bringing black people together. You know what's going to bring us together is the truth. So I end this part 1 video, and I will be coming back at you with part 2. And until then, my brothers and sisters, peace and power to the people.